Good afternoon, everyone. So while I wait for my presentation to come up on the screen, I'm going to just introduce myself. My name is Angel Caglin, and I am the Executive Director of the Caribbean Innovation and Leadership Lab. So I bring you greetings from St. Lucia and from the Caribbean. I am really honored to be here because some of what I'm sharing, and especially the question shaping the conference, is also a question that we ask in the Caribbean, right? How do we build a teaching profession that is collaborative, respected, innovative, and able to serve every learner? So I just want to share what is happening in the Caribbean and how you may find it relevant to you, and how what you're building here in Africa is exactly what we would like to be connected to and we'd like to learn from. These are some points that may be familiar with you, well, familiar to you. They're understood and shared by many regions around the world that deal with teacher education. So teacher shortage that may be due to burnout or a lot of other factors that have already been explained yesterday and even today. Less than desired gender outcomes for boys, for instance, and the opportunity for more support for teachers so that they can meet the needs of 21st century learners. So nothing really strange here on this slide. What I want to share is that the Caribbean does have some frameworks as well. So CARICOM, which is the equivalent to the African Union that you have, approved a very comprehensive standards for the teaching profession in 2020 with 3 domains: professional knowledge, professional practice, professional engagement. There's a career pathway, progression pathway as well. And there's an explicit statement in there that teacher quality has a strong determining influence on education for development. You know, words we can really be proud of. We think also of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, which is another organization that works with the group of even smaller Caribbean islands. And through their PEARL program, they've been investing in curriculum and assessment reform, teacher professional development, supporting early childhood education and special education needs as well, and strengthening school leadership and management. One of the most significant recent developments is the digital harmonized primary curriculum, and that's housed within a digital learning lab that was developed by Caribbean youth. This curriculum itself was directly shaped by about 150 educators across the region, which is important because it shows that there's regional ownership rather than a design that was imported into the Caribbean. The OECS has also paired that curriculum with the MyPD, which is a platform, a professional development platform where educators can get on to learn how to navigate, implement, and even enrich or add to the school curriculum with confidence. More than 1,500 teachers had already accessed that platform by 2025. But for initial teacher training, there was an assessment done by the University of the West Indies along with SUMA, and they found that there was an opportunity to strengthen the practical application of their programs. Teachers themselves were asking for more inclusive pedagogies, gender awareness, and the teaching of innovation and entrepreneurship. And in 2024, there was a research study in the Caribbean Education Research Journal that said educational change in the Commonwealth Caribbean is, for the most part, project-driven. So the innovations arrive with international funding and then disappears when the grant cycle ends. So while the Caribbean is not passive, there's a great framework. The CARICOM has provided the standards. OECS is building a really good regional infrastructure. And incidentally, they're also exploring licensure for teachers. So that's an area where we can really learn from both your practice and your pain. UNESCO has also set a new regional teacher strategy, but there's still need for sustained, context-specific, evidence-driven work that helps teachers and school leaders change their practice on the ground. And that's where the Caribbean Innovation Leadership Lab came in. CILL was built to respond to that gap. So we have an institution that is built around 3 linked commitments: applied research in education, education innovation, and leadership development. So our aim really is to help education systems generate their own evidence, design their own responses, and then strengthen the professional agency of teachers and school leaders. The way we do that is through ongoing collaboration, which is essentially this conference basis for recasting the teaching profession. The case that we want to present today is what we call the Full Potential Program. It's a multi-country, whole school approach to gender responsive and inclusive education. It's funded by GPE KICS. It operates in 3 of our Caribbean countries, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Dominica. We work directly with ministries of education in each of those countries. And the program has essentially 4 integrated pillars. Now, as I share those pillars, I'd like to encourage you to see where the collaboration features very significantly and where you can make the connections to your own context and your own needs. So the first is data and evidence. The Caribbean has almost no locally generated data on gender norms in school and how they shape student school experiences. So we're deploying the images survey for the first time in our region. We're collecting gender perceptions data from students and children as young as 5, 10, and 15 years old. And we're also collecting some anonymous qualitative at-school stories data, which captures the students' experience, the experiences of gender in school in their own words. And this is one of the really good contributions that CILL wants to make, because we want to not just design programs, but also generate Caribbean-specific evidence that ministries and regional organizations can use. So we've generated here, for instance, evidence that students as early as grade 1 hold very strong gendered beliefs about play and about work, and that students at the upper secondary level are facing some troubling mental health concerns that may be impacting the way they learn. It may be impacting the way they learn, but it may also be caused by the way they learn as well. So the second pillar is what we've recasted from professional development to professional dialogues. And why? Because we wanted to place the emphasis not on someone coming to tell teachers what they should know, but placing the expertise and experience and valuing what teachers are bringing to the context that they work and to the profession that they work in. So there are facilitated conversations that put the shared thoughts and experiences and ideas of teachers at the front of the room. So we host those professional dialogues with primary school and secondary school teachers in each country around issues like gender responsive and inclusive pedagogies, human-centered design approach to innovation. And importantly, this is not a one-day workshop. So we have some foundational sessions, but these are also followed by mini dialogues and follow-up sessions. And there are reflection tools that the teachers can use in their own classrooms. What we're doing is building the capacity of schools, however, to host their own professional dialogues without external facilitation. The data that we just spoke about, that is what is used as the basis for those professional dialogues. So teachers get to see the data and they explore it, they ask themselves, does this really reflect what I see in my classroom? Why is this happening? What are the implications for my teaching practice and what are the implications for student learning? The third is leadership capacity development, because we're treating leadership as infrastructure. As the CARICOM standards indicate, good classroom teachers are not automatically good leaders, and we find a lot of great teachers being promoted to school leaders, not necessarily the best pathway. So leadership development itself must be sustained across the career. And we heard that in the room yesterday and even today as well. So principals also participate in professional dialogues, but they focus on transformational leadership, gender-sensitive practice, innovation facilitation. We provide strategic places for, or spaces for those principals to meet, share their best practices, and actually plan. Because we know that teachers cannot be transformed in isolation if their leaders have not also shifted. If the leadership culture does not change, then classroom change will be lost. Teacher-led innovation is the fourth pillar. So each Ministry of Education engages in a system thinking exercise where they generate a map of an education challenge. So essentially, what is the problem they're looking at, and how does that problem, how is it situated within the larger education system? Then the ministry would publicly declare its innovation priorities based on that map. Teachers will identify related challenges and opportunities in their classrooms and schools related to those priorities. And teacher teams, so they work together in teams to engage in structured innovation projects to first understand the problem using an empathy approach. Who's affected? How do they experience the problem? How have they been coping, etc. Then ideate possible solutions based on the needs and experiences of those stakeholders, and prototype or test possible solutions. All of this would generate evidence that about what works and about what does not work and why. The teacher-led innovations, these projects are then supported by a ministry co-designed scaling pathway so that what works gets moved across the system from classrooms to schools to districts. And the insights from all of the innovation projects inform practice and policy. Ministry of Education administrators are now in that process building their capacity in innovation portfolio management. So CILL's model really does not treat the teachers as just recipients of reform. It's positioning them as knowledge producers and professionals who identify problems, test responses, generate findings that will feed back into the ministry planning. And so that is why our approach is on teacher-led innovation, not just teacher compliance. And we realize when teachers hear local voices, see local realities, and they have local ownership in the change process, they're much more deeply engaged. This is just 2 of over 60 examples of innovation projects within this school year where teachers are using that process to generate insights, evidence, and solutions. Notice the focus is not just on the solution at the end, but what are the insights that are being generated about the problem, about people, about possible solutions throughout the process. CILL also creates opportunities for teachers, school leaders, and ministry leaders to get together in the same physical space to understand and learn with and from each other. So in October last year, we had our innovation forum in one of our project countries, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we had teachers, principals, and ministry officials come together. Teachers were the ones presenting their innovation projects, and the rest of the room engaged in discussions as school leaders across the region or in heterogeneous groups of teachers, principals, and administrators. These things never happen, but that forum created the opportunity for these different stakeholder groups to get together and talk with each other. This event was also supported and attended by the University of the West Indies, UNICEF, and GPE. The comments from the teachers and principals were that this had been their first opportunity to be in a setting that made them feel like real professionals. Because for the first time, they were the ones leading the presentations and they were the ones leading the conversations rather than being spoken to. Incidentally, our next innovation forum will be held in St. Lucia in mid-October. So consider this your formal invitation and a reason to explore the Helen of the West. So if we had to distill our experiences into 3 lessons, it would be that, as was mentioned earlier, contextualization is non-negotiable. So teachers must hear their voices, see themselves in the change and be part of the change, lead the change even, and they are more than capable of doing so. Second is that the ministry as partner model really works. We have quarterly co-creation sessions that strengthens uptake and alignment. And the third is about the communities of practice, that yes, those informal peer networks are great and they should be encouraged, but teachers actually need structured, regular, facilitated times to meet. Teachers and principals too have expressed that they don't get that time to meet. And every time we brought them together, they were excited and appreciative that they could speak with each other and share best practices. So just to close, Yes, AFTRA was founded to regulate and professionalize teaching across Africa. CILL was built to drive applied research, teacher-led innovation, and leadership development. It may seem that we're operating in different contexts and in different structures, but we both believe the same things about teaching, about its value. And there are a few ways that I feel that we can continue our discussions. One of them is to have some research exchanges. Evidence is being generated in different things about similar experiences. We would be happy to share more data, and we would really be happy to hear about the progress that you've made in teacher licensure and registration, etc. The second is the model adaptation, what we use with innovation and leadership development. It's been adapted and contextualized for the Caribbean, and we feel that it could be adapted for African settings as well. And the third is, let's have some partnerships around joint working groups and co-presentations of research and a South-South knowledge exchange that would benefit all of us. You can learn a little more about the work that we do here by following our social media pages. They're very active, more active than the website that we have. So feel free to scan. And if you want to reach out, here is my information. And thank you very much for your attention for the last few minutes.